cloud services of AWS or GCP, where we have the entire automated modeling pipelines. If we don't want to use that, we can make use of some library like called like PyCaret also, where we can run all the models at one go instead of building model by model to see which one is performing the best.
I have one idea here, sir. So since PyCaret doesn't have a much more module or that classes inside that PyCaret module, so is it better if through the tree diagram, if he will make that understand this particular, because I tried to generate the directory of the PyCaret. In that PyCaret, I didn't even see the classification. So I was little surprised from where this PyCaret dot classification came, because whatever it's come, it should be in the directory. But it was not in the directory. And second thing, whenever I try to run this, then it's asked that dependency. One is the Jinja he asked, and second was is the markup safe. So these two, but whenever in the video sir was running, sir run this module without dependency, this Jinja 2 and the mark safe.
I'll just check that once, Kumar. Maybe I'll just re-record it as well, that particular video. Maybe they'll tell you why the Jinja was actually necessary for that. The reason being, there are some graphs which kind of get displayed automatically, be it the SHAP values for model explanation, which comes as a part of this PyCaret. So to display all those graphs which are inbuilt in PyCaret, so that's the reason why the Jinja dependency was there. Because Jinja basically kind of helps us to get that templates and the UI. I'm not sure if it's a part of this particular course. Rohit, you can correct me. We do have module for Streamlit in the future, right?
Yes, we have. It's the last module.
Perfect. So Kumar, you'll be learning more about Jinja and Streamlit towards the later half of the course. But coming back to your question on PyCaret, I'll just check that once and I'll kind of re-record the video again with more explanation as well.
Okay, sir. So yeah, we are comfortable with the Jinja, sir, because we done with that all MAD 1 and MAD 2.
Okay, perfect.
So comfortable with the Jinja. And the question was that how PyCaret dot classification exist, because it is the classification should come when the classification is the some class or method inside the PyCaret module, no?
I'll just check that. Yeah, I'll just check that on why it's not getting displayed. It should be there. It should be there as a part of it. And maybe you can just post this question on Discord, Kumar, and just tag my name. I'll answer it over there once after I go through it.
Okay.
One possibility is that, Kumar, if the PyCaret class definition inherits from a previous class, which where the parent class has this classification method, probably then it could work. Do you get? By inheritance, it can have a method called as classification.
Okay.
So it might not be explicitly present in the class definition.
Okay, so can you okay, so on the Discord, sir, can you explain in the little detail? Because
you create a separate thread and tag both of us. We'll able to,
okay.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi, Harshit.
Hi, sir. Sir, in lectures 4. Module 4B, that lecture 1, I have when I run the code, it shows me some error, and I posted it on Discourse, but I think no one replies.
Sorry about that. May I know what was the module name?
Train test split. When I use the functions smart, then it shows me the error, attribute error. The smart object has no attribute. Fit sample.
Oh, can you just tag me in that question? I'll just look into that, Harshit.
Where can I tag you? In the Discourse?
In the Discourse question itself, so that I'll have.
Okay. I'm tagging.
Yeah, sure. I'll answer you. I'll answer your question by tonight, Harshit, over the Discourse forum. I'll just look into that and see what was the issue with the code.
Okay, okay, sir.
It should be some versioning issue, if I believe it correct. So I'll just get you the exact explanation.
Yes, I think yeah, there is some version issue. Actually, there is one another error shown at the beginning of that code, right? So it is on, I think, from 6 import a string IO.
Okay,
That
I think IO has been disabled. I'll just check that piece of code, Harshit, and maybe answer it on the discourse itself. It's basically the version change of the libraries. That's it. I'll just check that once.
okay, sir, sure.
Because I believe this code was written actually about 7 months back. So there were some changes which happened in lab environment, I suppose. I'll just check the exact versioning, and I see Sridhar replying that we have to use resample instead of fit.sample, I suppose. So there is some change with respect to that thing. I'll just check that out.
Okay.
Hi, hello.
Yes.
I have a general question regarding the PyCaret. So, if you have to run all the models on a data, it will be computationally expensive, right?
Yes, it will be.
So what do you do in a real life scenario? Do you sample from your data and run it and then choose and build your model?
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to go, right? I mean, let's say for any financial institution, let's assume that we have the transaction data. Literally, you'll be having billions of data. I mean, forget about running a PyCaret. Even running a single model will be computationally too expensive and time consuming. And if you want a quick model, it makes no sense. So either you go, sampling is the methodology where we go ahead with, where we kind of performance stratified sampling, take the correct sample, which is a true representation of the population, then build multiple models on that and pick the best model and deploy it in production. Maybe Rohit, you can add anything if I had missed any, but mostly we use stratified sampling.
Okay, then you do all the hyperparameter tuning and all when like you find that like initial model and then go do all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So from my side, yes, whenever there is a lot of data, we obviously cannot use all data for a single model. So that's where a method called as ensampling comes in, where you partition the data into different buckets and then you train different models in the data. That's another strategy, because you're having small data chunks over which the models are trained. You take the collective decision for a final new data point for which you want to make an inference. It can be based on maximum outing or any other weighting strategy. So on-sampling methods are generally used whenever you have huge data and you wanted to fit a model type to the data. Am I clear?
So do you use like different samples for like ensemble methods? I thought my
No,
understanding was
most like no. Same sampling ratio will be the same. Let's say you split the entire data into 10 separate random parts, random buckets. Obviously, these 10 random buckets will have different level of information that depending upon the problem. And so the models trained over these 10 different chunks of data will exhibit different behavior. But you want to make a single prediction for a new data point, for a test data point. How do you do that? You take the 10 predictions and then you do some mathematical nudging like weighting or voting. Something like that. That's called as ensembling.
Okay,
That's another strategy.
okay. I had thought that you make the models on the same data, like different models on the same data.
No, there are different. So there are subparts to it. There is bootstrapping. There are different types of sampling method, ensampling methodologies. We are telling one version. That's fine.
Sir, I have one general question. Can be asked?
Yes,
please go ahead.
Yeah. So that whenever we talk the data, so at the end, in the most of cases, we need to apply on the web pages the data, and on the client side. So and the most of data algorithm has written on the Python. So obviously, I have to run on the backend on the server side. But the way we see that it's take the time in the second, not even the microsecond. So what will happen if the many users coming together and the 100 users? So the last user will come, he will not even able to see his result, because even I will use the queue, he will be in the lots of queue back. So in that case, what generally we do to give the data science result on that, means the all data, big data result on the client side. So someone is doing for for the one person, it is okay, even it will take 2 seconds, will be fine. But the on the server side, there will be only one code and 100 people is doing. So what we do in that time? How to solve this the question? Is my question clear, sir?
Your question comes more from handling the infra and queuing line, Kumar. Yeah,
Yes,
unfortunately,
yes, sir, yes. In the on the web, because in the throughout that I asked the question, I've seen that tools in data science, the big 1 to 5, and the way we are scraping through the back end or the through website. So the question came, I tried to do something, and I faced this issue that how to do the data science, where actually how to fit that. For example, the sir has grammar, they are handling the so much data on the back end and displaying very nicely to do this. So how they handling, because he has also website and opening and the running very nicely smoothly, whatever I have seen in the tutorials. So how to do this?
I mean, that basically comes from your load expectation on number of people who are going to use your front end, right? So
Correct, correct.
if your expectation, let's assume that you have a business website, and let's say you're
Yes,
expecting 1,000 customers to use it at one go.
yes,
Uh, let's say there's a big billion day sale, and suddenly there are 2,000 customers. So
yes,
at the
yes,
time, what happens? So we write an exception, right? So when it goes beyond this, we'll have the dog image getting displayed that something is wrong.
yes.
So that's essentially how you balance your. I mean, I'm not sure about the data science part here, but that's a different story altogether with respect to the user management. The reason being, one, the proper expectation or the prediction on the number of users who are going to make use of your, let's say, web page has to be analyzed first, or else it's going to be an exception error always with respect to the load.
Kumar, just to answer your question, let's take the example of whatever Ravi told, the big billion day. Of course, everyone is going to log in and come up. So, of course, let's say you have a model which does dynamic pricing to the people for everyone who comes, and then tells what is the price of that watch, Rolex watch that Amazon shows. Of course, if some people are more loyal customers to Amazon, some people are less loyal customers, some people are more what to say, uh, revenue, generate more revenue to Amazon than others. So there is different segment of customers. So all companies that produce data science solutions do not put a single data science solutions to their entire community. There is always the heavy lifting of doing a exposing a data science solution to the customers. Of course, it's not it only makes sense to expose a solution for a set of customers whose value is high enough. So what they do is that generally they segment the customers, and for customers who have more value, only this data science model is run. And for customers who have less value, most of the time it will be a classic rule-based logic, telling that if his engagement with the website is, say, if he just logs in into Amazon only once in a month, yeah, have a static 2% discount on Big Billion Day. That's enough for him, because I'm pretty sure that he's not going to generate enough revenue for me. So I'm fine with not doing some high mathematical calculation to tell what is the optimal pricing for the product that he needs to be seen when he logs in on Big Billion Day. So there is always this strategy of how much percentage of the entire population needs to be given specific attention through an ML model. Did you get what I iterated, what I told now?
Yes, sir. I got that. Can I modify a little bit question here, sir? Since that Amazon or this type of thing is the dynamic, through the database. Let's think about the simple data. I have some CSV data set which has that some 10,000 row is there, and I'm running on the some machine learning algorithm based on that, and that is on the server side. So it's take us some second, that 1 2 second or 3 second, even in the 10,000, and data is fixed, and it is fixed for even the all users. So uh, how to handle that, because we finish that match and once I try to
Your
fetch
voice
there,
was
and
lost.
I was running this. Okay, sir. So I was telling that we have some CSV database. Uh,
Yeah, I heard that you are having 1 or 2 minutes.
Correct. So 1 2 minute is there. So how to handle that if I will fetch in the web, because we finished that MAD one, and my target is to fetch this TDS with the web technology. So I was facing this issue only there. Otherwise, no one. So if only that much issue was there. So what happened if the data is taking, and how other companies handling this type of issue? And I have a fixed database. I'm not running the dynamically like that. Big billion day has the something has happening dynamically. Okay, I'm leaving that. Just some 10,000 row has the CSV data, and some algorithm I'm running XYZ, and which is taking the 2 3 seconds for per hit.
Kumar, sorry to ask you. Can you just repeat the question, because Prasanna just joined? He'll be the right person to answer this question actually.
Okay, sir. So we have a one CSV data file, and which has the 10,000 row, and the some algorithm I'm running, and it's taking the 2 3 seconds on that, because I'm running Panda, Matplotlib, or Seaboard, or anything. So it's take the 2 3 or 5 seconds. So it is fine once I'm running on the collab, but at the end I want to fetch it with the web technology. So I have to run in the server side. So how to handle this, because I can't give the one person to 5 seconds, because it can be randomly sometime 100 people can hit it at together. So how that company handling this type of problem, because I finished the MAD and I want to fetch this TDS with the MAD. So I was particularly facing this issue when I was trying to do this experiment.
Hi Kumar. So I understand that you have the task is you have one CSV file which you are doing some transformation, maybe like reading the file and doing some transformations on that, and then
Yeah.
saving back the results. And you have an application which is actually displaying those results. Am I getting that correct?
Yes, on the client side.
On the client side. And the idea is now this script, if you are running it manually, like manual trigger, someone is doing it manually, you are it takes like how much
Four,
time does it take?
4 5 seconds.
4 5 seconds. It takes 4 5 seconds. On the other hand, if you are putting it in a server and trying to manage the concurrency, if I get that like 100 users are trying to do the same operation, then how would you handle that? Correct?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
So there are two things. One is on the persistent storage. Obviously, if you have one CSV file and then we are trying multiple persons to access that particular CSV file, then there is a problem of how to say, like let's take like a file operation. Whenever a file operation happens, if one person opens a file, then that file is already open. So another person cannot be able to open that file. So let me say how this is handled in an enterprise software or enterprise application.
Okay.
First thing is most of the enterprise application avoid any flat file operations. All this CSV text JSON files are flat files. Instead, they go for a database.
Yes.
The first step is,
Yes.
once you have a database, then always you can manage the connections between a database. There can be multiple connections that happen within a database, and you can have actually schedule the connections between the users and the database. As in, like, you can manage a session within a database. So the first step is allowing concurrency multiple users to use the data. So for which we have to have a database. This in if it is a simple use case, then you can always use the SQLite from Python. Or if it is a slightly complex, then you can go for standard database systems like PostgreSQL, or if it is a NoSQL library, then you can go for a MongoDB. So this is the first problem tackle. First, the data should be available for all the users. Now this will solve the problem that every user will have access to the data. The second problem is basically the processing power. As you said, 5 seconds, but consider if 1,000 people are actually using that, which means that it's essentially takes 5,000 seconds, and
Yes.
there will be latency between multiple users if you have the script running in only one server. So the server should be running with a distributed or parallel operation, which means that in most of the cloud applications they go for something called the load balancer. So you have the so consider if in simple terms, if you are having an EC2 instance, let's say we are going for an AWS cloud instance, and we are using an a simple EC2 instance for running this. Now instead of having one EC2 instance and running the script on that, generally they have something called a load balancer and resource managers. There are multiple options there, resource managers and load balancers. So those resource managers can automatically activate an EC2 instance and deactivate an EC2 instance based on the load.
Okay.
In latest, so the latest trend which is happening in such kind of distributed computing is Kubernetes. So all we need to do is, if your script is if you can containerize your script using a Docker file, then the entire script is in a Docker mode, and you can have one Kubernetes node. So one Kubernetes can actually create multiple Kubernetes pods on based on the load. Did it make sense? In short note, two things. One is your data should be available for multiple users to handle concurrency. Second is, in order to handling the processing power, you should have distributed systems. So these are the two challenges which you have to tackle.
Got it. Actually, my question was the second one, which one you explained.
Yeah, there are correct. So in order to resource management, there are lots of process. I mean, if the data set is large and you're going for a Spark data frame, then there is Yarn, there is Mesos. If it is a more of an automated operation, not much with the data, but more with process, then you can always go for Docker with the Kubernetes.
Okay. So it is in the beginning, it is the more economically costly for the beginner if I want to do it.
Okay. In terms of economical, I would say Docker with Kubernetes, because both are open source. So which means that you can develop the entire script into a Docker file, which is container. Now, what happens is your code becomes as a container which can run in any instance or any environment. So once a Docker is ready, then you can actually see the pricing of different options, Kubernetes or I think there is what I know is like Yarn, Mesos, and Kubernetes. These are like standard resource managers which are available, and Kubernetes is most of the enterprise applications are moving to Kubernetes.
Okay, sir. I will go through that. It's a new thing, and I will think on it. Yes.
Sure. Okay.
If you want to learn it from beginning, so how can we do it? Like, because this is something like upcoming and like this is being used more and more for deployment of data science projects. So how can we like learn this from scratch?
Okay. So, I mean, the best way to learn is to take a sample project and write the code from scratch and deploy it. The reason why I say is, in order to write or develop an application, you need not know the entire theoretical idea of how the system works. All you need is a practical approach of how you can build the system. There are two ways of handling this. So as a beginner, I would always suggest the Docker or the Kubernetes or whatever frameworks you use. Every framework have a free tier. Even AWS or GCP, everyone give a free tier, something like $200 to $300. So in order to just explore and deploy something, you need not pay anything. So that's the best way to learn. Take a sample project, maybe like a fake ID detector, or if it is, if it is too much, just a simple automation, something like a calculator which you can type in Python, and then try to deploy that. Consider that 10 if 10 users are using a calculator at a single time, how does it operate? So you can start from the basics. Your program need not be complex, but in order to use these frameworks, you can just develop that automated Python script in this fashion and then try it out. And each of these technological products, they have their own tutorials as well. So if you take Kubernetes, they have their own YouTube tutorial which has the details of how to build or deploy a pod right from the scratch. So it doesn't uh, take much of trouble for us to understand or deploy it. The only thing is, once you start building it, you'll find out certain ways or hindrances in troubleshooting a problem. That's where you may have to spend your time. But to understand the technology, it shouldn't take much time. Everything is available over the internet, both in YouTube as well as in their own private training sessions.
That's the basic problem, because so many things are there, so we don't know that what to follow.
Okay. One thing is, if you are thinking of a specific technology, say how you want to use a Docker and a Kubernetes, try handling with GitHub repositories. So everyone who are like enthusiasts, developer enthusiasts, they try to actually build open source repositories, which are like best way to learn a simple use case. So if you type Docker with Kubernetes in GitHub, there will be list of repositories. Maybe if you search within a 10 different repositories and projects, you'll find one thing which is something approachable from our end based on our understanding. So you can start with that, try to recreate that within your own system and deploy it, and then from there it will be the beginning where you can learn and add features on top of the sample project which you have done.
Okay. I'll start doing that, and then I'll come back in case I'm got something.
Start with GitHub, start with a simple project so that you understand the basics and are able to have a first step on using the framework. Then everything is like an add-on which you can do, just adding a feature to the existing project, again another feature, and adding another tool with the existing tool. So it's like a start with the basics and then add on top of that.
Sure. And is it part of our curriculum, or like we'll be doing it at our own?
In the part of the curriculum, we will be having how to deploy app. I mean, maybe if Ravi or Rohit, maybe they can have, they may be the right persons to explain that portion of the curriculum.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah. So we have a module separately for hosting and deploying and hosting of web applications that to support ML applications, but we do not cover. That's a very basic module where you will try to create an instance in Heroku and then you will deploy your ML model up there. There will not be the usage of Docker and Kubernetes for. There'll be no part for resource allocation and management in that. We have not currently added that, so you have to probably take your own steps towards that.
Okay, fine, thanks.
Sir, one point I want to add it, and want to clarify also this thing to Prasanna sir. Yes, the Docker and Kubernetes was there. It is from the long time, and one of thing I have seen over the net that nowadays all the data science type of algorithm is running directly on the client side. So what is your idea about that? Because the moment WASM is that WebAssembly language is proposed by the fourth language from the client side. So it is converted from the Python to the WebAssembly, and then it's directly running on that. So how efficient it is this if I try to run that some data science algorithm on the Python and convert in the machine level, and directly machine level language I call through the JavaScript on the client side. And I tried to make that one-to application. It was running. Only the thing was there. It's take the 3, 4 or the 5, 6 second on the client side to load it, and after running it is perfectly fine.
Yeah, Kumar. So one thing, so uh, I may have like questions on what you're trying to say. Is it like trying to build a data science application using JavaScript? Is that what we are trying to address
No.
here?
No, sir. I'm not completely using the JavaScript. I'm using completely in the Python.
Okay.
And converting in the machine level type. This is the one language is the WASM, and its file is that like that JavaScript come the .js, no. So WASM WebAssembly came at the .wasm. So it is nowadays some companies also interfacing on the when they're running the huge amount of the database algorithm. So they're preferring WASM instead of JavaScript, because JavaScript even it's need some time and convert in the machine. So I try to use that, but that's I was thinking. So now, is that in the future this is going to more applied, or that again the backend? Because in that case, if I will make what I feel, that I don't have to do care about that backend and the lots of load balancing, because I will send to the client, and now it will happen the one-to-one processing. Like same I'm doing writing Python script on the collab and running. It's only for me. It is there is a no connection. When the code is loaded on the client side, then it's only the client side. The client is playing with that. I don't have to do nothing. Has to do server.
Okay, I haven't gone through WebAssembly, the WASM script, but I think if I get it right, are you trying to say that instead of having the model deployed in the cloud, can we bring it
Yes.
to the edge devices where the data is available? They run it at the edge device itself. Is that question right?
Correct. Even that I was surprised, because the Panda, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Scikit, everything is running on the client side and perfectly in that format.
Okay.
And the newly that some developer was thinking to make that, because don't know, but some community is trying to think all the thing through the client side. So some community is working on that.
So there
And
is,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm not sure about how this works with a WebAssembly where you have a web client, but a huge or one of the biggest breakthroughs which are happening in data science community is called the edge computing, where they something called tiny ML. If you have heard about tiny ML, where they try to build a model in TensorFlow, and TensorFlow has something called TF Lite version, TensorFlow Lite. Basically what it does is it takes the entire model which we have built and converts it into a simple binary which can be deployed at any kind of a edge device. When I say any kind, it can run on Raspberry Pi, it can run on Arduino, it can run on any low level devices which you have, not with a high computing power, but still at an edge device. For an example, if I say consider you want to have a image detector. So something like you have a Raspberry Pi board, a simple board which has a camera and it can click and take a photo. And the next thing is you have to find out what are the objects available there. So the way how this is done is you can have your in your PC you can build the model and download that model as a TF Lite version, and then load that into the chip, the Raspberry Pi chip or the edge device which you have, and then ensure that the input output ports are actually connected for that model. So in that way, there is a huge research which is going on how we can handle or ensure that model is not, I mean, the data, the biggest problem is handling the data from the edge device to the server. So this, if you are able to transmit or transfer the model to the edge device, this entire data flow is stopped and the entire inference happens at the edge device itself. So that is something which is big happening. And if you're really interested, I can I'll try to figure out, there are Slack channels for this TinyML, and there is actually a book which was recently released, a TinyML cookbook. Let me find out if I'm able to figure out that links before the session.
Okay, sir. It's great actually, sir. And I will also the application I made, and I will try to run it again, and I will post it on the discourse that how I converted Python to the Wasm and how I fit it on the client side. So I will give you the link.
Sure, definitely, yes.
Okay.
So I have shared the GitHub version of the TinyML cookbook. Maybe you can go through that.
Okay, sir. Yes.
Do we have any other questions?
On 25th, there is a programming exam, no, for TDS.
Dixon, can you just confirm the date?
Yeah, it's on 25th. Yeah.
Any guidelines on what the syllabus is and how to prepare for this?
So the questions, if you have done your graded assignments, then the questions will be fairly similar to the questions in graded assignments. And so it's MCQs. You will have the questions will be, you will be given a question and you'll have multiple choice. You'll have to select the answers. Yeah.
We will have access to the Colab notebooks and
you'll have access to internet. You can use the internet. You'll have access to the internet. The portal might not be working then because you will be writing the exam on portal, so the portal contents wouldn't be available. But you have video lectures in YouTube, right? You can refer that.
Okay.
So it is from module 1 to module 3, week 1 to week 3.
Okay, week 1 to week 3 is the syllabus.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what will the duration for that?
Duration is 1 hour. You'll have 1 hour for the quiz. Do we have any other questions? I think if we have no other questions, we can end the session today. Shall we end it, Ravi?
Dixon, we can give back the last 10 minutes.
Okay.
That's fine, sir.
Okay, then let's end the session. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thanks.